Algiz, Algiz, Algiz. Hail Odin. Odin, Odin, Odin. Odin, Odin. Algiz, 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 Algiz. So everyone, with Algiz on my forehead, with my black sun orgonite pendant, and my blood magic crystal on my body, I think we're ready to talk about the subject that I wish to discuss today. And that subject is, will humanity make it? Will we make it as a species? Will we survive? Will we overcome the challenges that face us? And a lot of our challenges, most of them, are made by us. Our carelessness and how we've treated this planet and how we've conducted ourselves with one another, with people of different beliefs, and really just our inability to see far into the future. The reason that I think, well, there's some reasons that I think that humanity will make it. One of them is that we have so much potential to change when things are at their worst. A lot of people think it'll be too late by the time we have to take notice of climate change, for instance. But I actually have a little bit of faith in human ingenuity. I'm not saying that we shouldn't take steps to have less impact on our environment. Exactly the opposite, actually. I think that we should take many steps right now to basically curtail all the damage we've done to the environment just in the last 150 years with industrialization. There's a lot of great things that came with industrialization and our ability to change the foundations of our country as far as the materials we provide for one another and the expense that it takes, which is getting less and less. But those things were immediate to our desires and not immediate to what we truly need. What is immediate, which has been immediate for a very long time, is that we have to care about future generations. And a lot of our activities right now, I'm talking about humanity in general, is purely led by material-based desires, by the desire to have this or that, by the unwillingness to address the problems that face us because it's easier to just ignore them. I think that people who truly love humanity will look at what we can do to change right now instead of allowing our children or our children's children to really face the brunt of these coming problems. It feels like a lot of spiritual beliefs as well, namely religions. People of different religions seem so adamant that they're correct, and the religions I'm talking about are, of course, Abrahamic, Christian, Muslim, Jewish. Not even some of the oldest religions. I think that a lot of spiritual systems have been founded that weren't the religions that we're dealing with right now. I mean, there's been spiritual traditions stretching back many thousands of years. I happen to follow one of them, which is Hinduism, which I wouldn't even necessarily classify as a religion, but there's this ideological tinderbox between Christianity and Islam, and generally Christianity and Judaism in their fight against Islam, putting it very vaguely. There's a lot of tinder there for a lot of hate and a lot of violence, and we've already seen that manifest before our eyes. And as we gain the ability to destroy ourselves to greater degrees, based on our weapons and our development of those weapons, we also must have our wisdom increase, our understanding that of the effects of our weapons and what we can do to ourselves to greater and greater degrees. So science and the development of our militaries cannot outweigh our understanding and the implications of these technologies as far as it being in the public mind and in the mind of our leaders and developers. It's going to be incredibly difficult for a lot of these things to resolve, because fear is basically the constant when it comes to religious violence or political violence for sure as well. There's a fear that one might be wrong about one's political beliefs or religion, and there's a fear of the unknown. We don't know as much about people and other political ideologies and other religions, just as a grander whole. There's a lot of people in every religion that want to take time to learn about other religions, but there's just not enough, and there needs to be greater pushback against that internal fear that we all have, fear of the unknown and fear that we might be wrong. And this is one fear that's not brought up very often, the fear that we might be wrong. A lot of the time we project that fear of being wrong onto our so-called enemies or those who we see as opposite to ourselves. When we're really unsure within, we make a scapegoat out of those who believe something else. Then that's where a lot of violence comes from. That ignorance, that inability to see that I'm unsure, so maybe I should just not worry about what other people believe. I don't have to force it onto them. I just need to figure out what I truly believe and really take everything into account. Do I really believe that my religion has all the rules right, all the dogma right? Which no religious person would say dogma about their own religion. But am I really sure that this is what God wants, or the gods want, or is the general direction of my path formed through competent leaders, understanding leaders, compassionate and logical leaders? That's something we can always ask ourselves, which it may seem like sacrilege or blasphemy to some people, but we have to really question, why do I believe what I believe? Who am I to decide what everyone else should believe? Just because I believe what I believe, that doesn't necessarily mean that I must force my beliefs on it. Actually, it never means you should force your beliefs on anybody else, because then you're just propagating fear, you're propagating hate, you're propagating doubt. I think that there's a lot of danger in missionary work when, let's say Christians from the United States, let's name any church, Lutheran, Christians might go to somewhere in Africa to do missionary work, or somewhere in South America where people are really in need, but we also throw our religious ideas at them, or we only go to help those who already believe what we believe. That is putting a limitation on our compassion. That is kind of sweeping the feet out of underneath our hearts, our human hearts, and our individual heart. As far as our ideology goes, it must be bolstered by sureness, become sure of yourself, and by true compassion, not conditional compassion. And we see a lot of conditional compassion in things like missionary work, or when people try to reach out to other religions, maybe being an apologist, a Christian apologist, and then trying to explain, there's a lot of problems that we have, but it's still better than what you believe. That alone has bred so much violence in the world. That's even though, okay, well, we might be wrong a little bit on how we took care of things, how we did things like colonization, which is awful. But overall, we're still right, and we kind of have to be careful of apologists like that, because really they're putting this same fear in a nice velvet bag, but it's still fear in there, even no matter how pretty it looks. Will we make it? Will humanity make it? I think we will, but only if we address our internal struggles and our effect of the kind of life that we live on the planet. world hunger could be solved right now if we stopped force breeding cattle, because we feed so much of our corn, for instance, that we gather, that we farm, to livestock and after force breeding them, that if we just stopped force breeding right now and we actually just gave the feed, not necessarily starving the animals that exist, but just not making more exist by force, that corn left over could literally solve world hunger very easily, very cheaply. And not to mention that 1 pound of beef takes a lot more clean water, fresh water, than a pound of corn or rice or any kind of vegetable, almost any kind of vegetable. If you're drinking almond milk and soy milk, that takes a lot of water too. But a pound of beef is just so expensive as far as resources go, food and water to produce, let alone the animal suffering, compared to if we just kind of parted ways with our obsession with eating meat, which really, that was a side to industrialization that was very unfortunate, because we started industrializing farms and slaughterhouses, and it became very inhumane to the animals, of course, but also just ineffective for our long-term survival, even if it's effective for producing the meat that so many people seem to want. We have to address this problem and figure out a way to wean ourselves off at least a little bit. That'll provide a lot more fresh water and food to the world, especially considering globalization and how everything's connected as far as shipping routes and moving products. We have to think more, feel more, and use less, become less attached to the material that we've become so comfortable with. And when it comes to political ideology, we also have to look at ourselves. Really, all of these problems is looking at ourselves, the way we live, and asking, why do we live this way? Is there a better way to live for our children, for our grandchildren, and the future generations of humanity? The closer we look at ourselves, the more likely it is we'll find solutions to these problems that are popping up left and right, that have been problems for decades now. You know, I think that in the study of economics and the study of business, entrepreneurship, in recent years, there has been a requirement for ethics classes, philosophy classes as well sometimes. And I think that's good. I think that's the way to go. But it's always, from the standpoint, not always, but most of the time, it's from the standpoint of a manager treating their employees, how you should treat your employees. And there needs to be more of, how are you going to treat the planet? How are you going to prepare your grandchildren to live in a world that has less resources, that is being, as the oceans rise and our climate becomes smaller and smaller because of our own actions? Are you creating the kind of world with your business that will allow further business to continue in the centuries to come? We need to narrow down our priorities. Our priorities right now are not far-sighted enough. And I'm afraid that once we reach the point of hindsight, it might be too late. But that said, I actually think that we will find a way to persevere. It's not going to be easy, and we're going to look at a lot of troubled times coming within the coming decades, but I think that we will find a way. And even if it feels like it's too late to really start addressing these problems, I think that I think that we are protected, and there will be a way for us to overcome. The gods, the spirits, they want us to overcome. Most are rooting for us. Most associated with humanity, and those who have died, and their spirits still remain and want us to flourish. And the gods of preservation, and even Shiv is generally thought of as a god of destruction in Hinduism. He is actually a god of deconstructing our imagined delusional mindset that this moment will last forever and we need not worry about the problems to come. That's my own phrasing, but definitely deconstructing our mindset and our self-delusion is something that Shiva is wonderful for. Of course, Kali Ma views all of humanity as her children, and if you try to contact her and be close with her, she might show you tough love, but she wants us to survive. She wants us to persevere. Odin, very much wants the whole multiverse to last for as long as possible, and that's why he does what he does. Thor, champion of humanity for sure, the strength that we really need in addressing these problems. I'm going into some of the gods that I look up to, but there are other gods, there are other traditions that are just as valid, and who have gods and spirits and Loa, who want us to become better and to keep on surviving until we all reach a point where we can kind of ascend together. That's what a lot of gods and spirits and even gurus who pass on and gurus that are here and bodhisattvas, they've all been kind of helping us work towards a point where we really start to question, what is this creation that we live in? Who are we? How should we live? And what is the truth behind everything? There's a lot of entities and forces on our side. That doesn't mean we shouldn't take responsibility. That means that there is hope, even hope that's supernatural, I guess you could say, superhuman, metaphysical. There are metaphysical forces on our side. So there is hope, and don't get disheartened by our current circumstances, because though we find ourselves here at the precipice of either overcoming or just destroying ourselves, there are, if I was going to use some kind of metaphor, I guess you could say there are angels tossing down ropes that we can grab and pull humanity up. Sometimes it's just one by one in our personal lives, trying to reach out to people and communicate with them better, trying to help them see our point of view. And that communication that opens up, we don't have to agree on everything, but the more communication, the better. That's why I do what I do. Even people that I disagree with, I will interview in order to spread, more knowledge on who they truly are and how we can open up a dialogue, no matter which different beliefs that we have. That will aid the political, ideological side of fear and ignorance that we see troubling ourselves now. But regardless, there is hope. We will make it. That's what I truly believe. And I thank you very much for watching. If you like this video at all, hit that thumbs up down there. It really helps out the channel. If you want to become a patron, if you want to donate just $1 a month to basically help me produce better content, to get equipment, I definitely don't have a huge budget. So if you just want to donate $1 a month, go to www.patreon.com/darkrealist, capital D, capital R. And I just asked for $1 a month. You can, of course, donate more if you wish. It really helps out the channel. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. You agree with me? You disagree with me? Maybe the concerns that I'm talking about are far scarier than I've laid out. Just let me know in the comment section below if you wish. And I hope to see all of you on the channel in the future.